Sean Moore from Vodyssey. Can't tell you how excited I am to be able to have him on the show. Sean is the guiding light for a lot of investors, short-term vacation owners that want to not only get into this market, but be able to understand how to run a successful business. I'm going to spare you all the introductions and just have Sean introduce himself and tell us a little bit about how he got started and what his company is all about. Sean, thank you for being a part of my show.
Absolutely, Dawood. Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate you letting us join and talk about where we're at with vacation rentals and everything real estate. I've been a real estate investor for full time for 22 years, so I feel like I've seen a lot of different asset classes, lots of different economies, and lots of different things that we're facing. Never the same crisis or the same thing that we're walking into, but real estate's been very, very good to us and a lot of fun over the years.
So, Sean, in my last segment, we highlighted a lot of what was going on in the economy, recession, people are getting laid off. Why would anybody right now in this market, with the interest rate being where it's at, want to, buy a property, let alone vacation property? Because every article out there and every news program that you're listening to is making you realize that you probably need to think twice about spending that dollar, because we're not quite sure where that next dollar is coming from.
So, and it's definitely something that people should have in the back of their minds and be thinking about. One, I always say when you're investing in real estate, you should have a long-term strategy. And when you have a long-term strategy in real estate, the future looks bright. And short-term rentals now are a mainstream asset class, right? One thing that we're kind of coming off of is that shiny object syndrome with short-term rentals. Short-term rentals have really gone through an explosive growth phase and become very, very mainstream at this stage in the game. And so when you have a mainstream asset class, whether it's multifamily, whether it's short-term rentals, whether it's long-term and single-family long-term rentals, commercial properties, whatever it is, once it is mainstream, that means it's got some staying power. It's going to be here to stay. And do you have to completely ignore some of the indicators and some of the things that we're seeing in the market? Absolutely not. We need to make some short-term strategies to be able to account for some of the things happening in the economy. But I've been full-time real estate investing, like I said, for 22 years. I went through the dot-com crash. I went through 9/11. I went through the major housing recession in 2008. We suffered through COVID, right? Now we're going into what we don't know what we're going into, right? Another possible recession. Economies are cyclical. We always are going to have ups and downs. And if you're just trying to ride the wave, that's not a long-term strategy. That's very speculative. And so when the first thing you have to ask yourself, if you're going to be in the game or any game you're going to be in, is why are you in it? What are you planning to do, whatever game you're getting into? And short-term rentals are no different. What do you want things to look like in 5, 10, or 20 years? And start making decisions based on that. Do you go out and roll the dice and be really speculative and hoping that you ride another wave? Absolutely not. That's not what we do. You have to be very conservative with your decision making. But when you look at something like real estate as a long-term strategy, 5, 10, 20-year strategy, you make a lot different decisions than if you're staring at making decisions on what's going on right now. Right.
One of the pillars to your philosophy that I just enjoy so much, because I really feel like you hold your members' hand, your students' hand, the new investor that's coming into this market. Your philosophy is very much like what I do when I approach my investors all the time, is that you think about things from the end. And that's why I like to call it an end investment, right? Not IN, but END investment. What does that outlook look like for you? When in our discussions, you keep talking about what's your dream? What are you looking to achieve? You should never really be investing in real estate if you don't have a 10-year outlook on where you see this property going. The only way that I would suggest that you should allow yourself to have a shorter outlook on investing in real estate is if you're flipping a property. And I know flipping properties have become so popular, especially with all of those TV shows out there. But guys, it's not as easy as you think it is.
Yeah.
You're going to run into a lot of problems. You're usually always over budget. And if you don't know what you're talking about, you're going to end up losing your shirt.
Yeah.
You talk about a lifestyle asset. I love this term. Can you tell me what a lifestyle asset is and how to best use it?
Absolutely. So kind of we started calling these lifestyle assets. And for us, lifestyle asset has to have three things. One, I've got to be able to create passive income with it. It's got to be able to pay for itself and put some money in my pocket. Two, it's got to be able to be managed by somebody else. It can't turn into a second job for me. I'm not looking for a second job or a side hustle. And number three, for us, we like the personal use aspect of short-term rentals. And so for those three things, that adds to our lifestyle. I've got nice properties, nice areas that I can use. Somebody else is managing them, so I don't have to have a second job. And the number one thing, which is the most important, is it cash flows. And it's important to be able to put money in our pocket, right? We are very data driven. I don't buy properties and say, okay, I've got a 10-year outlook so that hopefully in 10 years, I've got some money on it and I make some money on it. We have to look at the data. We've got to look at the numbers, and we've got to make sure that we're buying in areas and properties that actually cash flow. And the other two things have to cash flow with management in place. They've got to be able to be properties that we like. That to us is the definition of a lifestyle asset. I used to flip homes for 6 years. 6 years is all we did. We flipped over 300 homes in 6 years. And one time at a real estate investment meeting, an old guy put his arm around me because I was in my early 20s. And he said, Sean, you keep referring to yourself as a real estate investor. You're not a real estate investor. He said, you've got to create passive income in order to be an actual investor. He said, you have a job fixing up and flipping homes. You get paid as soon as you sell the home, and you've got to go do it again and again and again. And so for us, we're saying, okay, we need to, the holy grail of real estate is a portfolio that creates passive income, makes money while we're not doing anything. And that's also one of the main criteria of a lifestyle asset. And so we have to look at the data. We've got to make sure the numbers work. And we don't ignore some of the warning signs out there. But we're not just rolling the dice and saying, okay, we're looking at the short-term strategy here.
But your company actually looks at hundreds of properties on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
And you actually have an acquisition team that actually helps a lot of the members and the students that you work with, filter through this. I mean, it's funny because a lot of different people from different cities and different areas of the countries have a very different perception of what purchasing a short-term vacation rental really looks like. I'll give you an example. You hear about people in big cities that think about an Airbnb type property as a little condo, a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, maybe even a studio to rent. Usually for somebody that's coming into the city for a couple of days, they're going to go and crash there. It's a more comfortable alternative than getting a hotel room. Some case cheaper, some case not. To going to a mountain lodge, or for example, Disney vacation home.
Yeah.
What do you suggest, or how do you guide people to understand the market in order to make the best purchase for the best product, best asset in that market?
So one, we're going to start with your personal situation, right? I always say to people, where would they love to own a vacation home, right? We want that personal use aspect. We want this to be a lifestyle asset. And then they'll a lot of times come up with some ideas, maybe beach, maybe mountains, maybe Disney. You're in Orlando, for example, there's, it's kind of the home base of short-term rentals in the US. I mean, it is the largest short-term rental market, vacation market in the US. Almost 70 million visitors are going there every year. But there's a lot of other really good markets. Anywhere that has a major profit driver, and profit drivers in areas can vary between theme parks like Disney, national parks, beaches, mountains. They can actually be colleges or major medical centers. It doesn't even have to revolve around an actual vacation. I've got traveling nurses that buy properties around major medical centers, and they use them as short-term rentals when they're traveling, and they send them, or other medical professionals use them when they're not. So we start with, okay, what are your means? How much money do you have? Where do you want to be? And then let's identify some of the major profit drivers in some of the areas that you like, and see if it's viable to actually cash flow on a property. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. You can't just go buy a property, throw it on Airbnb and make money. Like some markets, the ratio between the acquisition price and the revenue has to make sense for this to be a great investment for you.
In addition to that, for some markets, for some investors coming from different places, they can definitely take advantage of investing in the respective markets that they want because of a variety of different factors. I'll take, for example, some buyers that I'm working with coming from Canada. The prices for homes in those markets are astronomical, that it allows for them to buy, if not one, at least two properties for the same dollar values as they would investing in a property in their their city or their part of the world. In some cases, they can even take advantage of exchange rates. So, for example, not only are you getting cash flow, not only are you getting appreciation, and you're getting a lifestyle asset, as Sean mentioned, you're getting to as an extension to what Sean keeps talking about, a return on investment. But more than a return on investment through your cash flow and your appreciation, you're getting what I like to call not only an ROI, but an ROL. The ROL stands for a return on your lifestyle as well too. It's a way that you can go take advantage of utilizing this property at various times of the year. It's something that you can keep for your family. It's something that you can grow. We have investors that came and started off with one property, like many of the people in your group, and now in our market own 10, 12 properties and are generating a sizable passive income from these properties and are simply just staying in them whenever they have a hole in their program. And in fact, because they are foreigners, they're able to ride the exchange rate that when it came time to sell it, not only did they end up selling it and made a profit of, let's say, for example, $100,000 or $150,000 since when they bought the property, but they were able to actually even take advantage of an exchange rate of about 25 to 30% difference from when they had purchased it at the time, giving it not only that the income that they received from the rental of the property, not only the appreciation that they received, but they also were able to take advantage of what I like to call investing in real estate on steroids, because you have that X factor, which is exchange rate. So it's really important to understand your situation on a case-by-case basis. And this is why, you know, a company like Vodacy, like Sean's, is really great. They offer you a lot of resources and a lot of tools as well too. You have a ton of training that you offer people. I tapped into it as well too. I learned a lot more as well, and I'm in the space. I mean, I work with investors from all over. Your approach is really unique, and I really like a lot of the tools that you have to offer. You talk about your 3 ascensions that you offer as part of the tools here when you're talking about people investing. Can you tap into talking to us about that proven path to stay on the top with your 3-phase asset process?
I always tell people in order to crush it with the short-term rental game, and to simplify it, is first you got to find the right location, the right property, right? And so that can be profitable. 2, you've got to set it up to deliver a unique experience and set management in place so that you're not turning it into a second job. And 3, you've got to be able to market it in very crowded marketplaces and learn how to stand out and actually get bookings in very crowded marketplaces.
You know what? That's exactly what I want to get into when we come back from the break. I want to know, how can you make your home stand out in the crowd, especially if you're in a saturated market? I want to talk about the do's and the don'ts. I want to talk about the cities you should be investing in, maybe the cities you should be shying away from at this point in time. But before we go, I know you're giving away a gift to our listeners and our viewers on the show. You're giving away your book. How can people get a hold of your book, and how can they get a copy today?
They can go on, instead of going on Amazon and buying it, we put it on our website for all the listeners here. They go to vodacy.com, VODYSSEY, and they scroll down. They just click get a copy of our book, and you'll get an immediate PDF copy of our book. You can get a hard copy as well. And so go to vodacy.com, get a copy of our book, What the Hell is a Lifestyle Asset?
I like it. I love the title. What the hell is a lifestyle asset? Go out, download your copy today. That's Sean's gift to you guys. Stay tuned after the break. It's your host, Dawood Bedrosian. We're going to get into a deep dive on vacation rentals, the do's and don'ts, what you should be doing and what you should be staying away from. Stay tuned after the break. I have Sean Moore with me from Odyssey right here.